thank you so much for joining us on ET Now. My first question to you: everybody keeps talking about that India is the bright spot in the gloomy global world. At this point of time, given the big reset that's happening in China and also the situation that's panning out in Europe, do you really think India still has the spark left in it?
Absolutely. I think that there is no doubt about that. In fact, we're not just the bright spot. I think we are what I would call the sunshine spot in a otherwise very gloomy global environment. So you look at, for example, the fact that we've grown at 7.5%. We are the highest growth economy in the world. We have $43 billion of FDI that's coming in the first 9 months of this year, and that is high quality capital inflows as opposed to FII money. Look at current account deficit, if you look at the stability of our currency, the fact that inflation is at 5%, I think that our macroeconomic credentials, our macroeconomic parameters are plumb on place, and I think that augurs very well for us.
We're very close to the budget making exercise. In fact, the budget will be announced by February 29th. At this point of time, what do you think would be the right thing for the government to do? Should they let the deficit expand to push growth, or should they be cautious at this point of time?
I think it's important that the government makes a very serious thrust on high quality infrastructure. So I'm sure it's always a balancing act between maintaining the fisc and spending on infrastructure. But I think that is a very important push required in terms of setting in place a virtuous cycle for the whole economy. And one hopes that corporate tax rate will come down as well.
Since the budget will be announced very soon, do you see GST seeing the light of the day in this session of the Parliament, or has India really given up hope on GST given the logjam that we're witnessing in the Parliament?
I don't think so. I don't think that it pays to give up hope. I think that the hope, especially I hope that this is something that will go through in the next session of Parliament.
What are the top 3 things in your mind that you think are important as far as the budget is concerned for this year?
So like I said, I think a big impetus to infrastructure. I think rural infrastructure in particular requires a huge amount of focus. I think that cutting down on corporate tax rate, hopefully to 25%, something that the government has also enunciated in the past.
Right.
And I think simplification of tax laws, because that seems to be a deterrent to growth for us.
The Indian market has really given up, and they have raised all their gains up until now, ever since the Modi Sarkar came, due to the volatility that we are witnessing. Do you think at this point of time the markets are really reassessing the government's potential in terms of pushing big ticket reform?
So I think that a lot depends on the budget. I'm not a market expert, not a watcher either, but I think that if you have a good budget that presses the right buttons, I think that we have a big positive for the market.
My last question to you, the TRAI has recently gone ahead and announced the price recommendation for the 700 megahertz band, which is close to 11,000 crore rupees. In your view, do you think that high price is really justified for telecom companies, and do you think telecom companies at this point of time will be able to go ahead with it?
So I think the general sentiment in the industry is that these prices are unsustainable, and it would drive up eventually the price of the service that telecom operators offer to consumers, which is not a very happy situation to be in. And perhaps the DOT needs to relook at the price that it has set for 700 megahertz.
So as telcos, will you guys really go ahead and give your representation to DOT saying that this price is really high and it will be very difficult for telcos to really go ahead and probably get spectrum at that price?
It's still early days, but I'm sure that everyone in the industry would unanimously do that.
The call drop situation is something that's being keenly watched out for. What kind of moves are you really looking at? How soon can we expect that a resolution in terms of call drops to really come?
So one obviously intends to be compliant with what the government and DOT are asking for, and to that extent one is augmenting networks.
Right.
But I must say that high capex and upfront charges, for example, for spectrum, make it more and more difficult to spend on infrastructure like on towers. So there is a conundrum which I think the government and the industry together have to resolve.
They're also talking about, fines in case you do not, augment the network, and in case there will be more call drops. In that case, do you think that the point that they're talking about a fine, that's really unjustified?
So let me put it this way, that our intent is that we fill in the gaps as the government would want us to. So I'm not envisaging a situation where we will be subject to any kind of a fine.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us on ET Now. Thank you.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNow Live. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.